This was awkward, but we have an outdoor crib scene which goes up just before Christmas. It's a lovely thing, traditional, been there for years and years. It's lit up and people can walk past and stop and admire our lovely crib scene with the baby Jesus, which is 100 years old, there in the crib. So one year, just before Christmas, there was a whole crowd of people outside, and I went along and I thought, lovely, the magic of the Christmas story, and they were all crowding in and looking, and there was a good feeling. And I looked in and found out that someone had taken the baby Jesus out of the crib and put in a velociraptor instead.
Did you get him back?
In the end, I had to borrow from Mrs. Dolben up the hill a little Capo di Monte figure, but it was a matador. So we had a matador in the baby Jesus crib instead. But we kind of did a cushion around him because you couldn't see his hat or the blood stains or anything. So it worked out all right.
But he's lost forever now, the baby Jesus.
Whoever had the baby Jesus, well, you know, we're down a baby Jesus, but we're up a velociraptor, so, you know, all is not
Every
lost.
cloud.
But it happens a lot now, is that the sort of cultural reference points have got a bit obscure now. We had a nativity, we have a living nativity in church, which the children come and do. And I went up to do my thing and I discovered that the three kings were there. We had Caspar, Balthazar and Darth Vader. As Charlie had kind of got the brief from, and then he poked Mary with a lightsaber. Which is not really, strictly speaking, part of the Christmas narrative. But we busked it, it was fine.
And this is going to sound like a silly question, but is it a special time for you?
Oh, it's a very special time for...
I mean, Christmas Day, I mean, no, Jesus wasn't born on Christmas Day, was he? Do you know when he was? And you know all these things, I know you do.
Well, it's all a bit obscure, but the first vicar I ever worked for, he was lovely Christmas morning, and he'd smile and everything, and he'd lock up, and then he'd go back to the vicarage. He put on his pyjamas, took a bottle of vodka and went and watched The Sound of Music. That's good preparation for a clergyman's Christmas. Because, you know, actually, after you've done 30 carol services...
Right.
Yeah.
You know? You're ready for The Sound of Music.
That's what I wonder. I wonder if you're really thinking... Oh, no. Everyone's going to come and they're all going to be insincere.
Is it annoying for you? Because
it's the busiest
the only way I can sort of compare it is I play tennis at the local tennis club, and during Wimbledon, it's hammered.
Yeah.
With all these people who, like, don't really play tennis, but because Wimbledon's on, they've come to play tennis. At Christmas, you get all these people who, they're not really Christian, but because it's Christmas, they think, I better turn up. You know what I mean?
Play tennis in the church,
It's open. It's somewhere to go for a fight after the pub, so, you know, people come.
Has anyone kicked off during a service?
Oh, yeah, yes.
Brilliant.
We've had a fight at the back.
I'm going to start going.
Yeah. And my favourite one is fainters on Christmas morning. So you get... It's after the pub, midnight mass, people come to... I'm always delighted to see anyone, not bothered why, as long as they leave the lead on the roof, that's good. Good
prerequisite, that.
That's just one thing. You set the bar low.
Yeah, you're not picking.
The worst one was, it was before I was due, and I went to midnight mass at a cathedral, I won't say where. And anyway, it was nice. All the priests at the cathedral, some of them very old, came out. Everyone gathered around the altar. It was lovely. And then one of them had to go. So he left the altar and went off to the vestry without switching off his microphone.
Classic.
And we were gathered round the altar, and the words institution happened, and you just heard this... I don't know, obviously, he'd just overdone his Christmas dinner, and there was just terrible un-Christmassy sounds echoed around this cathedral. It was really awful. And we did our best to sing over it, but Silent Night was not a good choice. And then the worst thing was, he came back in again. And so there he was sort of at the altar and couldn't understand, everyone was sitting there going...
Where does 12 Days of Christmas come from? Why?
Well, it's because but the Christmas was a whole festival that went from Christmas Eve to the Feast of the Epiphany, which is January the 6th. So it's 12 days, but that's all got a bit lost in the sort of...
So it's a kind of artificial thing from...
Well, no, because now it's a commercial thing, begins in... Yeah, about then, doesn't it? Yeah. And then it peaks at sort of Christmas 12th,
I think.
Earlier and earlier every year.
We did a QI Christmas special in March once. We only did Easter.
I did it when I was in the band. We did a Christmas special with Billy Connolly that we filmed in July, and so we were all surrounded by Christmas trees and kind of singing carols, and came out and it was sort of a heat wave, kind of cracked ground underneath our feet, and everyone in sandals. Weird. We
should, for the sake of people who don't know, say which band you're referring to.
What was it again, love?
It was called The Communards,
That's the one,
wasn't it?
Yes, a long time ago,
with Jimmy something.
Yes, previous incarnation.
Your double,
It's
Double life almost.
No, triple. I think.
Triple life.
Yeah.
Is there a middle life between the communards?
Well, then I was working for BBC Radio, but that's the equivalent of death. So that didn't really count.
Years ago, went up to town on Christmas Eve to stay with a boyfriend. And I wasn't meant to stay the night because he worked in a kids' home and they weren't allowed to have people staying there. I missed the last train. I had to sleep in a cupboard in case someone discovered me in the morning. And I had to get out the place, out the window at 6 o'clock in the morning. And there was no public transport at all. I was in the middle of Fulham and I needed to get back to Tunbridge. And so I just started hitchhiking in the middle of London. I think I was about 17 at the time. And the first person to pick me up, it just sounds like a fucking play, this does, but it was a guy in a Bentley, right? And he was very, very camp. He had a massive hat on and a sort of chiffon scarf and a velvet smoking jacket. And he went, "In you go, darling." He was so lovely. And he said, "I can take you as far as the Elephant." And Elephant and Castle, what's he doing down there? Anyway, so he drove me to the Elephant Castle, and I can't remember if I thought this at the time, but certainly now, looking back on him, I am convinced it was Quentin Crisp.
Really?
But I really, I mean, I couldn't, you know, it was so like him. Have you heard of him? He's a very... famous writer, you know, incredible guy, brilliant guy. And...
a very distinctive look, didn't it?
Very
Always
distinctive
a big hat.
look, yeah, absolutely. And in a day and age when that sort of look would just get your head kicked in most of the time, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
It was just,
Was that,
you know...
was that your first time hitchhiking? Like, sort of like...
No.
Oh, OK. I was going to say first time and it's someone in a Bentley.
Yeah, I know. That's really lucky.
Oh, I love this. So he said to me, "Do you want to come for lunch, for Christmas lunch?" And I went, "Oh, I can't." He went, "Oh, I'm a bit lonely." And I was like, oh, and I felt really awful, like I should have gone. But I was going to some friends, so I had to get there. So next person that picked me up was a guy in a van who was hard of hearing. And he was trying to have a conversation with me. And he said, "What's your name? Where did you come from?" And I said, "Oh, I come from Hastings." "What?" Like that. So, "I come from Hastings!" And it got to the point where I literally had to go up to his ear as he was driving. "I come from Hastings!" This went on for, like, about half an hour. I think we only said about 4 sentences, because I repeated them over and over again. So he dropped me in Eltham, and a woman stopped and picked me up, and she was... probably mid-40s, very smart, you know, and nice and chatty. We go about 5 miles or so, and then suddenly I feel her hand on my leg.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, I know.
I'm from Hastings! We don't do this in Hastings!
Well, actually, we do. But,
I actually got to say, my friend is a lesbian who helps run Hastings Pride. And it's great. Sorry.
so I just thought, you know, I mean, I wasn't scared, obviously, because I'm quite violent. And... I'm not really. But I just said, "Oh, no, please, please don't do that." And she just, like, did an emergency stop and just went, "Get out." Like that, like, completely changed. So I went, "OK, happy Christmas." Bye, thanks. And then the final lift I got was a farmer in a sort of old truck.
I
and
can't believe you got in another thing.
At this point,
Well, what was I supposed to do? I was in the middle of nowhere. I didn't really know where I was.
That's very true.
Anyway, there was a sheepdog sort of in the back somewhere, and got in, and he went, "Where are you going?" No, he didn't, because he wasn't from Devon. What makes him go? "Where are you going, love?"
Where are you going?
So I went, "Oh, I'm going to just outside Tunbridge." And he goes, "That's all right, I'll take you there." And so he drove me all the way to my friend's house where I was having Sunday lunch, and pulled up, and I went, "Oh, I'm so grateful. I hope you haven't gone out of your way." And he went, "I was only going out for a paper." And then, of course, he said that thing that people say in the 70s. He goes, the wife was really getting on my tits. So I had to forgive him that slightly sitcom thing, because he did kind of drop me all the way down. But the worst thing about the whole thing was I got in, I was hours late, obviously. They'd saved me lunch, but some bastard had eaten all the roast potatoes off it.
That's the true sad part of the story.
That's pretty unforgiving.
How many hours was it? Like,
Probably about 5.5, 6 hours.
Oh, my... Where is Tunbridge, sorry? Where is that?
It's in Kent. It's about 25 miles, I suppose, from central
You
London.
could do your journey now, I think, on the Elizabeth line. One go. Easy, please.